Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people on the internet for your Thursday. Very busy day, of course, tonight in the NHL. And some news from yesterday with some news from today, and I feel bad for Adam Brooks. So he was claimed on waivers by the Toronto Maple Leafs from Vegas. The circle of waivers is complete. He's back in Toronto. Toronto has now waived him with the purpose of sending him to the minors. Remember, taxi squads are now gone. So this is being done so he can be sent down to the Marlies. I kind of hope he clears just because, bouncing around the league the way he has, it's got to be tough. Reminds me of Anton Forsberg last year, how he was just constantly being claimed and moved and claimed and moved. And you claim him and waive him. And so hopefully Brooks clears. That being said, would I be surprised if somebody else picks him up? Not really, no. So we shall see if Brooks clears or if he reaches Sillinger's record for teams played with by the end of the season. Scary incident with Jack Rathbone, the Abbotsford Canucks from last night. Stretchered off after a hit from Colton Sevier. Now, what's interesting about this is that, it's scary. Rathbone goes to the hospital. They're saying he's okay. He will travel with the team. But what's interesting is, let's say that this hit by Sevier is let's say it's dirty, which, depending on who you ask, some are saying it is, some saying it isn't. That's not the point I'm making with this. But what's interesting is that if Sevier got suspended for 4 games there, you can call him up and he can play in the NHL. And I've always thought that's weird that a player could be suspended in one league and still be able to play in the other. There's been players suspended in the NHL, going to play in the AHL. It's weird. So hopefully Rathbone's okay. It's not as bad as it looked, but the fact that he's responsive and he's able to travel with the team, that's good news. So hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, because for the Vancouver Canucks, this is a player who they may very well have been calling up around the trade deadline. Figure out whether or not they could use him on the blue line under Boudreau. Maybe he'll play, a different style under Boudreau than he did under Green. Maybe it'll just work better, right? So, hopefully Rathbone comes back rather quickly. Drake Caggiula has had neck fusion surgery on his neck. He's out 6 to 8 months. Apparently he had 3 different opinions on this before he got it done. 6 to 8 months, and then Caggiula should be back. I think he's a UFA this summer anyways, so we'll see what happens with him. Also, Buffalo Sabres related news. They released their Heritage jersey. The Heritage jersey looks a lot like their current away jersey, which I'm fine with. The home and aways that they're using are kind of a throwback to their originals. They're not quite the same shade. They're not quite the same style, but they're very similar. And so the Heritage jersey looking very similar to their current road whites. It's nice. And the Buffalo on the shoulder, I'd be fine with them putting that on the regular jersey. Just saying. They do have a very nice look right now. And so, that'll be a very popular jersey. They have not released the Toronto one yet. Keep in mind that game is scheduled to take place in Hamilton on May 13th. So we shall see. From the Buffalo Sabres. Well, we've seen the Buffalo Sabres Heritage. We'll see the Toronto one, I would think, probably in the next few days. Usually they release the jerseys close to one another. I have not heard yet when they'll be available through the NHL shop. Usually when they reveal them, they put them available on the team store. The NHL shop may get them a week later. Coach Hines in Nashville has been fined $25,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct at the end of the game against the Caps the other night. They lost 4-1. I guess he was upset with the officiating. I know Nashville fans in attendance were upset with the officiating. And so I guess he told them where their head could go or where their head was while the calls were being made. Whatever, kind of thing he was throwing out, and they didn't appreciate it. And so he gets fined $25,000. Last night, and this shouldn't be a spoiler for anybody now, Canada wins gold over the Americans 3-2. Canada gets out to the 3-0 lead and then relied on some excellent goaltending to take that one home at 3-2. I really enjoyed watching that at the end of that game. The one thing that threw me off, the black numbers on the red Canadian jerseys, hard to read from a distance with the camera angle they were using, and white numbers on a white jersey for the Americans. I understand there's an outline around it, but good luck reading the numbers. I will say this, the announcers earned their pay with that because I couldn't really read them very well. And they've announced as well that while the World Juniors will take place in August, and this is the World Juniors that were paused in December. What's interesting is the games that took place in December don't count. Those games mean nothing. So if you really enjoyed that World Juniors and you're like, yeah, can't wait for them to continue, they're rebooting it. Not only that, but with it being mid-August, there may not be the same players available, so they're also allowed to pick brand new rosters. So that was a trial run middle of August in Alberta. They're going to have the World Junior Championships, and relegation resumes. Relegation was held off for a couple of years, but it's back in the World Juniors this summer. The women's under 18s, so their version of same tournament, is now scheduled for June. So they canceled it, but they postponed it. And again, I did not understand at the time why they didn't just say we are postponing it. It's the word canceled that really threw people off and made them upset. So the women's under 18s will be in June. They're saying in the northern U.S. So Minnesota then, I guess, that'd be my guess, but I could be... yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Montana hosts, sure, why not? So those tournaments are being moved, and so we'll see how they perform. Middle of June, that's right around when the Stanley Cup's awarded. Does that hurt the ratings for the under 18s? Which channels are carrying the women's under 18s? And then, of course, the men's World Juniors in August. Which players play? The obvious example being Owen Power. Owen Power likely to sign for the Buffalo Sabres. Will the Buffalo Sabres make him available for a tournament in mid-August? Probably not. They're probably going to want him to work with their trainers and get ready for training camp. So we shall see. Announced this morning, Adam Ruzicka from last night's game gets a $2,000 fine for an elbow on Kevin Shattenkirk of the Ducks. I mentioned in the review last night, I'll say it here as well. I find it strange that if you cut somebody with your stick, it's a 4-minute penalty, but if you cut them with your elbow, it's a 2-minute penalty. I'm not sure I understand. And I said this in the review last night too. If it's about injury, bleeding isn't necessarily a sign of injury. There have been plenty of times where somebody's gotten hurt, plenty of times I've gotten hurt, where there's no bleeding involved, but it still hurts a lot. So I've always thought that's a weird thing about that rule in hockey. I remember when they brought in the rule, Don Cherry said you're going to see guys biting their lip to try to draw a little bit of blood, and I'm not saying that does happen, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if it did. And it's bizarre, because if you cut somebody with anything that's not your stick, then it's probably a 2-minute penalty, unless it's your fist, and then it's probably a 5. It's hockey. And it has to be hard. I mean, all kidding aside, it has to be hard for people learning the game, because you're probably looking at this and going, okay, so why is that a 4-minute and that's a 2-minute? When someone goes, well, it caused an injury, you can answer with, well, both of them caused an injury. So again, Ruzicka gets fined. It's a small amount, but it's about if it happens again, then he might be looking at a suspension, right? Vancouver news as well, outside of the Rathbone scary injury from last night. Jim Rutherford says what we kind of know. The Canucks are an average skating team. They're not an overly fast team that are being bailed out by a franchise goalie. That basically Demko right now is dragging them to respectability, and I can't argue with that logic at all. It's been fun to watch Demko this year, but there are games that get won here and there that probably are because of Demko, and it reminds me of Markstrom the last year he was in Vancouver. Vancouver makes the playoffs in large part because Markstrom was stealing a bunch of games, and it feels like that's happening now. So what that tells me is Rutherford wants the team to be faster. This has been the word that's been used a lot since he took over, and Boudreau goes behind the bench. I think they want a faster team, which makes sense. You look at the best teams in the league: Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay, Colorado, Toronto. All of them are very good at the transition game. They're very, very fast. They're very smart in how they defend. And that's the kind of hockey the Canucks are looking to get to. The defense has been much better under Boudreau, but he can't make them faster skaters. So look for the Canucks at the deadline to be looking at picking up speed. And I'm going to say this too. I don't think it matters whether they're in the hunt or not. I think maybe if they're in the hunt, they're more likely to be picking up pieces and maybe willing to sacrifice a future piece here and there. but they're looking to get faster. So we shall see how that turns out for them. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. And I will say this, the Canucks aren't the only team right now that, thanks to their goaltender, have a better record than they would if they had an average to a below average goalie. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.